the fundamental principles are not different for the different levels of an organization. It's the application of those principles. So, for example, if we talk about 6 different levels of providing service, which is one of our fundamental principles, from a very terrible level of performance, we call it criminal, all the way through the expected level, desired, surprising, and even unbelievable. So let's say you're the senior leader, the CEO, the chairman, the managing director of an organization, and you have a new service strategy. How do you communicate that service strategy to the other people inside the organization? What level of commitment do you demonstrate in how you're going to bring that forward? You could do it in a very expected manner. You set the strategy, pass it to corporate communications, it's their job to pass it on. Or you could do it even worse. You could say, well, I wrote that down and now pass it to your assistant, and their job is to figure out how to get thousands of people in the organization to understand your strategy. Or you can step up and take a lot more personal responsibility for how are you going to communicate this to people, for example, by video, in meetings, in your own role modeling, in panel discussions, in having time actually at the front line where people can ask you questions and you can answer and show them how that new strategy you've come up with really comes alive. So here you have an example of a fundamental principle, 6 levels of service, applied to the most senior person in an organization. Now let's come all the way down to the front line. Let's say it's somebody answering the phone in a call center. Same thing applies. I can answer the phone late and then with a fairly rude tone of voice say, yes, can I help you? That's a very low level of performance. I could do the average. I could say, good morning, thank you for calling, this is so-and-so, how can I help you? Or I can commit to stepping up to a higher level, where my service performance can have that nice tone of voice that says, good morning, thank you so much for calling. My name is Ron. How may I help you today? That's the same principle, 6 levels of service, but now applied at the very front line. So the power of this is having throughout the organization, top to bottom, inside and out, everybody understanding the same fundamental service principles and then learning how to apply it to their own job. The reason this is important is it leads to the development of what we call a common service language, so that everybody in the organization, when speaking about service, has a fundamental set of language elements to be able to use to communicate with each other. We find in large organizations that so many years of service training has been done at different levels. So many hours have been spent, so much money. And yet if you ask people, what is superior service throughout the organization, you'll get different answers everywhere you go. It's time for that to stop.